When you see this logo, what is the first game that comes to mind? Is it traversing the jungle with Diddy and Donkey Kong to get back your lost bananas? Are you picturing going on an adventure with a cursing squirrel?
Nice.
Or could it be running around a temple trying to find your best friend using Odd Job while playing Slaps Only? For some of us, this logo was a sign that you were about to play one of the greatest games of all time. If you were born after the year 2000, most of you have no idea what this logo is. That's okay though, it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
The golden era of Rareware Studios may be gone, but in today's episode of Nostalgia Road, we're going to look back at this iconic studio from the very beginning all the way up to today. Could we ever see another golden era of Rareware Studios? Let's find out.
It's me, Matt.
Hey Microsoft, what are you gonna do with all of my favorite Rareware franchises?
Kill them all.
Rareware actually began life with a rather odd name, Ultimate Play the Game. Because if you are going to start a video game company, why not aim for the top, right? The year was 1985. The place? Ashby-de-la-Zouch. Yes, that is a very real place in England. I didn't make that up. And the masterminds behind it were two brothers, Tim and Chris Stamper. These brothers had spent years coding arcade games for other companies, probably while dreaming of the day where they could finally stop making other people rich and start building their own video game empire. So they did just that. They jumped into the home market, tinkering away on 8-bit platforms like the Commodore 64, BBC Micro, and the UK's beloved Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Their first creation was Jetpack, a game where you zoom around collecting parts for your spaceship while blasting aliens into oblivion, all while wearing a jetpack. But in 1985, they decided that Ultimate Play the Game wasn't quite ultimate enough. So they sold the name to US Gold, which ironically is not located in the US, and transformed into something even more iconic, Rare. So what do you do when you want to make video games for the whole world? That's right, go right to Nintendo and tell them you can reverse engineer the Famicom. Nintendo laughed it off and said it couldn't be done. But something that we learned early on is you don't tell the Stamper brothers that something can't be done. So they went to the drawing board and did the unthinkable. Nintendo was not only shocked, but amazed, and then hired the company to make games for the console. And just like that, they were off to the races. Released by Rare in 1987, Slalom straps you in a pair of virtual ski boots and sends you hurtling down pixelated slopes faster than you can say, "Watch out for that tree!"
Ah! Watch out for that tree!
That's gonna leave a mark. The gameplay is as simple as it is addictive. Dodge obstacles, leap off of ramps, and zigzag through slalom gates like your life depends on it, all while trying to beat a clock that seems to have no chill. But let's be real, slalom isn't just about skiing. Is this gonna happen every time I say that? It's all about the adrenaline rush of racing down a mountain, the thrill of nailing that perfect jump, and the inevitable yet somehow hilarious crash into a strategically placed snowman who was clearly just minding his own business. I'm on to you, Jack Frost.
You know what? I think this is the best Christmas I ever had.
WWF WrestleMania for the NES was the game that let you live out your wildest, most spandex-filled dreams of 80s professional wrestling. Body slammed onto store shelves in 1989, this gem boasted a lineup of WWF wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Macho Man Randy Savage, ooh yeah! Each ready to flex their own pixelated muscles and deliver a beatdown worthy of a Saturday night's main event. Sure, the gameplay was as simple as a leg drop, but it nailed the WWF vibe at the time with digitalized versions of each wrestler's theme song, and special moves that made you feel like you were right there in the ring. WWF WrestleMania might not have been the most complex game out there, but it did help build the foundation for modern wrestling games that we see today, like WWE 2K or No Mercy back in the day. Brother, back then it was like a slice of wrestling heaven.
Back to you, Maniac Mike!
Look at that energy.
Battletoads for the NES is the kind of game that makes you question your gaming skills, your patience, and whether you really need that TV you just threw your controller at. Released in 1991, this beat-em-up is so tough it should have come with a f***ing warning label. But despite its hair-pulling difficulty, it's a game that's impossible not to love. Control a trio of trode heroes with names that sound like skin conditions, button smash enemies that explode into cartoonish goo, and navigate through level design dreamed up to make gamers suffer. But then there's the Turbo Tunnel, a level that may actually be classified as one of the hardest NES challenges within a mainline game. The player boards the speeder bikes, and most control them around obstacles as the Toads race through the level. The first section presents the most common obstacles with a straightforward alternating zigzag pattern. In the second section, ramps are introduced, which are essential for jumping over larger gaps, along with a floating barrier that can hit the player if they jump. The third section ramps up the pace, incorporating floating ramps and rat rockets that drop barriers directly in the player's path. The fourth section increases the speed even more, featuring only rat pods that must be skillfully avoided, along with chasms that require precise jumps without assistance of ramps. Oh, you thought we were done? Not yet. The final section is the most challenging, featuring non-blinking, fast-moving zigzag barriers. The timing of button presses for this are near impossible. Also, keep in mind this is only the third f***ing level of this game. Because we're all a little masochistic, Battletoads has still earned a devoted fanbase, becoming a cult classic and a rite of passage for anyone who wants to prove their gaming mettle. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Rare had always been the kind of studio that looked at a console and thought, let's see how far we can push this before it catches fire. But now, they had their sights set on something even crazier, breaking into the world of 3D graphics on home consoles. When Rare showed off their new graphics technology, a mind-blowing way of rendering 3D graphics on the SNES, they had Nintendo execs picking up their jaws off the floor. The demo they saw was a sneak peek at what would become Donkey Kong Country, and it was like nothing anyone had seen before. Nintendo took one look at what Rare had cooking and knew that they had to get in on the action. So in a move that would shock the entire gaming world, Nintendo whipped out their checkbook and bought 49% stake in Rare, essentially locking them down as an exclusive second-party developer. The stage was set for Rare and Nintendo to create some of the most legendary games in history. Released in 1995, Killer Instinct was Rare's way of saying, hey Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, get a load of my joystick. What really set Killer Instinct apart was its combo system, a glorious invention that let players chain together attacks in a way that made you feel like a martial arts master. And who could forget that magical moment when you pulled off an ultra combo and set your opponent into orbit? The game's cast was a motley crew of fighters, each with their own outrageous moves and finishers. The Super Nintendo version might have toned down the graphics a little bit, but it perfectly captured the spirit of the arcade original, making it a must-have for anyone who wanted to prove that they could mash buttons with the best of them. Or, if you just wanted to hear that sweet combo breaker. Released between 1994 and 1996, this trilogy was Rare's way of saying, oh, you thought platformers were simple? Hold our barrels, bruh. Should I tone it down in the 90s slang? Nah. The first game, Donkey Kong Country, was such a jaw-dropper that players practically needed a chiropractor after their first look at those pre-rendered 3D graphics. With Donkey Kong and his sidekick Diddy Kong on a mission to retrieve their stolen banana stash from the dastardly King K. Rool, gamers were hooked. The levels were packed with secrets, the platforming was as tight as DK's grip on a barrel, but Rare wasn't just about to sit around eating bananas. They followed it up in 1995 with Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Conquest, which many fans consider to be the series' top banana. This time, Diddy Kong brought along his girlfriend Dixie, The game's pirate theme world was darker, more dangerous, and absolutely dripping with style. I am not going to sell myself out for a 2-second joke. That is not going to happen.
How else are you going to pay for those Oasis tickets?
You happy?
Fucking good, man.
The trilogy wrapped up in 1996 with Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble, a game that took the series on a joyride through a world of wacky level design and new gameplay mechanics. Dixie was back, but this time instead of Diddy Kong, she brought along Kiddy Kong. While some fans might argue on whether the third installment was the best, there's no denying it delivered everything we loved about the first two games, plus a few surprises for good measure. In the end, the Donkey Kong trilogy wasn't just a series of great games. It was like a love letter to everything that made platformers awesome. The partnership between Rare and Nintendo, which had already made waves during the Super Nintendo era, was full supernova on the N64. Rare quickly became the secret sauce in Nintendo's recipe for success, serving up one gaming masterpiece after another that made the console sing like it was auditioning for a spot on Broadway. It was as if Rare had stumbled upon the ultimate cheat code for game development. Rare had a knack for creating worlds that you didn't just play, you lived in, and that had players happily glued to their controllers for hours on end.
Shut the door!
Released in 1997, Blast Corps for the N64 doesn't just defy genre, it blows it up into oblivion. Part puzzle game, part demolition derby, and all-out chaos, the premise is so delightfully unhinged. A rogue missile carrier is on a crash course with disaster, and your job is to clear the path by turning everything in its way into a pile of rubble. Buildings, bridges, or that nice little suburban neighborhood that you were about to move into in a few years.
Welcome to the neighborhood! My name is Craig!
Nothing is safe from your gleeful rampage of destruction. What makes Blast Corps so irresistibly fun is the sheer variety of ways you can wreak havoc. Bulldozers? Check. Dump trucks? Check.
I'm in a waste management business.
A robot that can punch skyscrapers into dust? All you betcha. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, they throw in a jetpack-wearing mech that stomps anything unlucky enough to cross its path. Each level is a puzzle wrapped in a demolition site, and it's up to you to figure out the best way to clear the path for that runaway missile carrier. Sometimes you need to be quick, using your vehicle to plow through obstacles like a hot knife through butter. Other times you have to be strategic, planning your demolitions like a mastermind of controlled chaos. Rare's signature humor and creativity is also on full display here. Blast Corps is a shining example of Rare's fearless approach to game design, proving that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is with a bulldozer and a big, silly grin. GoldenEye 007 for the N64 isn't just a game. It's the stuff of legends, a rite of passage. Released in 1997, this game didn't just bring James Bond to your living room, it redefined what it meant to be a secret agent with a license to kill, and an even bigger license to break your friend's spirits. The game tossed you in the well-polished shoes of 007 himself, tasked with saving the world, sipping martinis, and looking effortlessly cool while doing it. But the real magic of GoldenEye? It made you feel like you were Bond, James Bond, complete with all the gadgets, guns, and perfectly timed quips you could ever dream of. At the heart of GoldenEye was a single-player campaign, which wasn't just a game, it was practically an interactive Bond movie. Each mission was a cocktail of stealth, action, and the kind of over-the-top espionage that made you want to don a tuxedo just to play. Whether you were sneaking through the vents of the facility level, ooh, that's gonna leave a mark, or pulling off that ridiculous bungee jump off the dam, each moment felt like you were living out your own blockbuster movie. The levels were so meticulously crafted that you half expected to hear Pierce Brosnan's voiceover telling you,
Shaken, not stirred.
after each mission. But while the campaign was undeniably slick, it was the multiplayer mode that truly made GoldenEye a household name. Whether you were trying to snag the golden gun and become a one-shot wonder, or playing License to Kill where every hit was lethal, multiplayer sessions were pure unfiltered chaos. And let's not even get started on Oddjob, because if you picked him, you were basically asking to get banned from future game nights. Man, I would do almost anything to go back in time and have an all-nighter with some of my best friends playing GoldenEye. Those were the days. Oh, what happened last night? What's this? Oh man, I could totally go for some pizza rolls right now. GoldenEye 007 wasn't just another video game. It was a seismic shift in the world of first-person shooters. It showed that consoles could deliver the kind of pulse-pounding, heart-stopping action that was previously the domain of PCs. Rare didn't just make a great Bond game, they set the standard for what every other shooter would aspire to be. And while the graphics seem a bit retro today, the gameplay still holds up, proving that GoldenEye has earned its place in the Gaming Hall of Fame. It's a game that will be remembered, replayed, and most importantly, revered for generations to come. Diddy Kong Racing for the Nintendo 64 isn't just a kart racing game. It's like a carnival on wheels, with a little bit of chaos, a dash of adventure, and a whole lot of bananas. When Rare released this in 1997, they didn't just enter the kart racing scene, they kicked the door down. What started as a real-time strategy game called Pro AM 64 took a sharp left turn when someone at Rare had a brilliant, banana-fueled epiphany. The result? One of the wildest and most beloved kart racer games to ever grace the N64. Gameplay in Diddy Kong Racing wasn't just about going fast. It was about going fast in as many ridiculous ways as possible. Karts? Sure, but why stop there when you can throw in planes and hovercrafts? That's right, Rare looked at the competition and said, land? Oh, that's cute. What if we took it to the skies and seas? Each vehicle brought its own brand of insanity, and you had to master them all to conquer the game's expansive adventure mode. Yes, you heard that right. Diddy Kong Racing has an adventure mode. This wasn't just a race to the finish line. It was a quest for golden balloons, boss battles with characters that looked like they escaped a circus, and unlocking new levels and characters all along the way. Oh, and let's not forget Banjo the Bear and Conquer the Squirrel. Characters so charming that they had to go off and star in their own games after this one. Diddy Kong Racing wasn't just a game, it was a thrill ride. Rare didn't just give us a kart racer, they gave us an experience that was as unpredictable as it was unforgettable. Diddy Kong Racing proved that sometimes going bananas is the best way to have fun. The creation of Banjo-Kazooie started with a project called Project Dream, which initially starred a boy with a wooden sword in a pirate-themed adventure. But as the folks at Rare started to play around with the ideas, they realized that swords and pirate ships were so last year. Aw, man. What the game really needed was a honey-loving bear and a wisecracking bird who could fit inside the bear's backpack. Banjo the Bear and Kazooie the Bird were born. Their unique abilities, Banjo's brute strength and Kazooie's snarky agility, opened up a whole new world of gaming possibilities. The result? A 3D platformer that blended a vibrant world, clever puzzles, and a sense of humor that could only come from a team with one foot in the ridiculous. The impact of Banjo-Kazooie was nothing short of seismic. Gamers were instantly hooked by its colorful, whimsical environments, each packed with more secrets, collectibles, and oddball characters than you could shake a jiggy at. It wasn't just the charm that drew players in, it was the gameplay. Every level was meticulously crafted to reward exploration, with hidden treasures tucked away in every nook and cranny. Each world was a playground of endless possibilities, urging players to think creatively and use Banjo and Kazooie's unique abilities in ways that made you feel like the smartest person in the room. That is, until you realized there was still one more puzzle to solve. Banjo-Kazooie wasn't just a game, it was an experience that left a lasting legacy. In a pantheon of N64 classics, Banjo-Kazooie stands tall. Jet Force Gemini for the Nintendo 64 is one of those games that's really hard to forget. Not just because it was a blast to play, but because it's like Rare decided to throw every wild idea they had into a blender and hit puree. Released in 1999, creating Jet Force Gemini was classic Rare, meaning they went full throttle on innovation and crammed so much into the N64 that you half expected the console to start smoking. The game was supposed to be something else entirely, but in true Rare fashion, it morphed into a genre-defying adventure that had you blasting bug-like aliens one moment and exploring alien landscapes the next. The visual style was a mashup of cartoony charm and gritty sci-fi vibes. But Jet Force Gemini wasn't just about blowing stuff up, though, let's be honest, that was a big part of the fun. It also demanded some serious skills, with combat that could leave you sweating, platforming that could make you question your reflexes, and a camera that sometimes seemed to be playing its own game of hide-and-go-seek. And who could forget the multiplayer mode, where you and your friends could square off in chaotic arenas filled with traps, weapons, and let's face it, a whole lot of friendly fire. When it comes to Jet Force Gemini's impact on gaming, it's a bit of a mixed bag, like finding both treasure and trouble in one space crate. While it didn't quite achieve the blockbuster status of some of Rare's other hits, it was still a critical success and has since gathered a cult following. Even today, Jet Force Gemini is remembered as one of the most daring and innovative games of its time. Released in 1999, Donkey Kong 64 marked the return of the Big Ape himself, after his successful run in Donkey Kong Country. But this time, Rare wasn't content with just creating another side-scrolling adventure. No, they wanted to go big, so big in fact that they needed an expansion pack just to make it all work. That's right, Donkey Kong 64 was so massive, it required extra hardware just to stop the game from crashing.
How do we fucking improve on Donkey Kong? We need solutions, people. How do we improve it? You.
Make it a 3D platformer?
Yes. You.
Have 5 playable Kongs to play as?
Love it. Chad, what about you?
I don't know, dude. Let's just make it with those interns down the hall that have never made a game before. They need something to do. Until we have to cost Nintendo money, and then we make Nintendo ship every game out with an expansion pack to fix the game-breaking bug.
Chad, you just got yourself a fucking raise.
Huh. Sweet, Chad. Hell yeah, man.
The game featured not 1, not 2, but 5 playable Kongs, each with their own unique abilities and weapons. Because why sell for one set of monkey skills when you can have a whole troop? The game was sprawling with enormous levels that were packed with secrets, puzzles, and more collectibles than you can shake a banana at. The impact of Donkey Kong 64 was as large as its world. It pushed the boundaries of what a 3D platformer could be, offering players an unprecedented level of depth and exploration. It was also a technical marvel for its time, showing just what the N64 could do when it's pushed to its limits, with a little help from that expansion pack, of course. The game's multiplayer mode, filled with frantic monkey mayhem, added even more value to the already colossal package. And of course, why would I not bring up the DK rap? A glorious, cheesy tune that introduced the characters in a way that's as unforgettable as it is ridiculous.
Of the bunch, you know him well. He's finally back.
Donkey Kong 64 might have been a bit over the top with its sheer size and number of things to do / collect, but that was a part of its charm. It was a game that swung for the fences, literally and figuratively. And in doing so, it left a lasting impact on the world of 3D platformers.
And then there's Chunky. He's dead. He's dead. Chunky's dead. He's dead.
Another game that required the expansion pack, this time to play the story, is Perfect Dark. Perfect Dark for the N64 wasn't just a game, it was a mission, a masterclass in how to build on success, and a glimpse into the future of first-person shooters. Released in the year 2000, Perfect Dark was a spiritual successor to GoldenEye 007 on the N64 as well, a game that had already set the bar incredibly high. But Rare wasn't content with merely replicating what made GoldenEye a hit. They wanted to surpass it, to push the limits of the N64 and deliver an experience that was bigger, bolder, and more ambitious. The result was a game that just wasn't ahead of its time, it was practically light years beyond it. The creation of Perfect Dark was a labor of love and technical marvel. Rare took everything they learned from GoldenEye and went all out, crafting a complex narrative centered around Joanna Dark, an elite operative in a futuristic world full of conspiracies, alien invasions, and shadowy organizations. The game featured an array of weapons and gadgets that made you feel like a walking arsenal, with each tool offering multiple functions, from shooting through walls to turning invisible. And then there's the AI. Let's just say enemies in Perfect Dark were a lot smarter than your average bad guys, making every encounter feel like a battle of wits as much as it was reflexes. The impact of Perfect Dark was nothing short of seismic. It pushed the boundaries of what the N64 could handle, with a level of graphical detail and complexity that left players in awe. The multiplayer mode, building on the foundation laid by GoldenEye, was a playground of options, with customizable scenarios, bots to fill out matches, and a slew of modes that kept players coming back for more. Whether you were teaming up for co-op missions, engaging in all-out death matches, or just experimenting with the game's features, Perfect Dark offered a level of replayability that was virtually unheard of at the time. Perfect Dark wasn't just another game, it was a redefining moment in the history of first-person shooters. It demonstrated what was possible when a talented team like Rare pushed the envelope, delivering a game that was as innovative as it was polished. Even today, Perfect Dark is remembered as a classic, a game that set the stage for the evolution of the FPS genre, and proved that the N64 was capable of so much more than anyone had imagined. Mickey Speedway USA for the N64 is what happens when you take Disney's most iconic characters, give them go-karts, and set them loose on a road trip across America. Released in 2000, this game was like somebody at Disney said, hey, why should Mario have all the kart racing fun? Let's give Mickey and the gang a shot, and while we're at it, let's have him zoom past Mount Rushmore. But this wasn't just about racing around a track. No, this was about Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and the whole gang racing through iconic American landmarks, like New York City, San Francisco, and the Grand Canyon.
New York City, September 2001. What a beautiful day to... Oh my god, Mickey, look out!
And because no Disney adventure would be complete without some villainy, Pete's gang is up to no good, kidnapping Pluto for reasons that are never quite clear. But hey, it's a cartoon, so just roll with it. The gameplay was classic kart racing with a Disney twist. You could choose your favorite Disney character, each with their own unique stats and personality, and hit the road to chase down Pete's cronies and rescue Pluto. The tracks were as colorful and vibrant as you'd expect from a Disney game, with power-ups that let you unleash all kinds of cartoon chaos on your opponents. While Mickey Speedway USA might not have reached the legendary status of some of Rare's other titles, it carved out its own niche in the kart racing genre. The game was a hit with the younger audiences and Disney fans who couldn't resist the charm of seeing their favorite characters in a new, high-speed setting. It also served as a reminder that Rare could pretty much do anything.
I am invincible!
Even turn a simple kart racer into a cross-country Disney adventure. And sure, it might not have been as chaotic as Diddy Kong Racing, or as groundbreaking as Mario Kart 64, but Mickey Speedway had something that those games didn't. The magic of Disney sprinkled on every race.
The demons taught me to...
Yeah, I don't remember Goofy saying that in this game. Let's just go to the next one. Banjo-Tooie on the N64.
Banjo-Tooie for the N64 isn't just a sequel, it's a full-blown extravaganza of bird and bear shenanigans. When Rare decided to follow up on the success of Banjo-Kazooie, they didn't just settle for a more of the same approach. No, they went all out and stuffed Banjo-Tooie with so much content. It's like they were trying to fit an entire theme park into one single cartridge. Released in 2000, Banjo-Tooie took everything that made the original great, platforming, puzzle solving, and humor, and added so much more that it's a wonder the N64 didn't burst at the seams. The creation of Banjo-Tooie was like Rare's version of a mad scientist experiment. They took the already sprawling world of Banjo-Kazooie and made it even bigger. Interconnected levels, new abilities, and a storyline that was somehow both darker and funnier. The Bear-Bird duo didn't just return, they came back with a vengeance, ready to tackle even more bizarre challenges, from transforming into all sorts of wacky creatures to blowing up TNT barrels like it was a normal Tuesday. The sheer scale of the game's world and the depth of its gameplay were mind-blowing at the time. You weren't just collecting jiggies anymore, you were solving complex puzzles, battling enemies with a variety of new moves, and even playing multiplayer games that could give GoldenEye a run for their money. Banjo-Tooie was so packed with content that it felt like Rare was daring players to find every last secret hidden with its expansive worlds. From the snarky dialogue to the ridiculous player names, every moment was a reminder that this was a game that didn't take itself too seriously, and that's what made it so special. Banjo-Tooie wasn't just a sequel, it was a celebration of everything that made Rare one of the most beloved developers of the N64 era. It took players on a wild ride that was bigger, bolder, and funnier than anything that had come before. Even today, it is remembered as one of the most standout titles on the N64, a game that proved that sometimes more really is more, and that when it comes to the bear and bird adventures, there's no such thing as too much.
No, stop that. Don't even tease that. Skip it. Let's just get to the next game.
Conker's Bad Fur Day for the N64 is the kind of game that makes you wonder, how did this even get made? And then immediately think, well, thank f***ing God it did. Released in 2001, the game was the ultimate curveball, especially coming from the same studio that brought us wholesome hits like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong Country. Originally, Conker was supposed to star in a cute, family-friendly adventure called 12 Tales. But somewhere along the way, someone at Rare decided that instead of making another cuddly platformer, they throw in a hefty dose of adult humor, raunchy jokes, and a squirrel with a serious attitude problem. And thus, Conker's Bad Fur Day was born. Rare had already carved out a niche with their cute and colorful platformers, but they wanted to prove that they could make a game that wasn't just for kids. The result was a bizarre blend of crude humor, pop culture parodies, and genuinely solid gameplay.
Alright, you know what? I've had enough of you.
Conker, the once innocent squirrel, was now a foul-mouthed, beer-chugging anti-hero who just wanted to get home after a night of heavy drinking.
How's that cure for cancer on the squirrel going, mate?
I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. It's not good. It's not good, innit?
Along the way, he encounters a cast of characters that would make even the most seasoned gamers do a double take, including a singing pile of poo.
My house is full of shit! He's shit everywhere!
The game pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable for Nintendo, which had traditionally been seen as the home of family-friendly fun. But Conker's Bad Fur Day wasn't here to play by the rules. It was here to break them, stomp them, and then make a lewd joke about it. Despite, or perhaps because of, its irreverent content, the game earned a very big cult following. Players who were expecting another cutesy platformer were instead treated to a game that was as much about laughing at the absurdity of it all as it was jumping on platforms and collecting shiny things. Whether you were laughing at the absurdity of it all, or just trying to figure out what you had just witnessed, Conker's Bad Fur Day made sure that you'd never forget it.
Like that, baby? Yeah, I know you do. I know you like that. I know you love that.
The second and biggest plot twist in the story of Rare comes in 2002, when Microsoft, then new to the gaming market with the Xbox, purchased Rare like some tech giant vulture circling over a cloud of Nintendo nostalgia. Rare, who at this point had just gotten through making your childhood magical with games like Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye, and Jet Force Gemini, suddenly found themselves being courted like a high school prom date by the kid with the flashiest car in town. Meanwhile, Nintendo was standing off to the side, probably thinking about their past decision not to buy Rare. After all, they'd been partnered with Rare for years. It was like Microsoft just pulled off the biggest breakup in gaming history. So Rare packed up their Donkey Kong-shaped dreams and headed off to the land of Halo. However, Rare wasn't done with Nintendo just yet. They had one more game for Nintendo's latest console, the GameCube. Star Fox Adventures for the GameCube. You pop in the disc expecting some good old space shoot-'em-up action, but instead of lasers, space dogfights, and barrel rolls, you're handed a stick and told to whack dinosaurs. Fox McCloud, the galaxy's coolest space pilot, suddenly finds himself on Dinosaur Planet, a place where the biggest threat isn't an intergalactic war, but trying not to step in dino droppings. Instead of flying around in his trusty R-Wing, Fox is now running errands for giant talking reptiles, because that's exactly what Fox trained for all these years. Fox may have saved the galaxy from Andross, but keeping his sanity while babysitting a chatty dino pup is the real challenge. But despite the bizarre plot twist that had Fox swapping out his blaster for a magical staff, Star Fox Adventures is like that weird yet strangely enjoyable vacation you didn't plan. Sure, it's not what you expected, but you ended up having fun anyways. Sometimes it's all about door dashing a Triceratops' lost grub. Grandpa Ghoulies is like the video game love child of Scooby-Doo and Tim Burton. Released in 2003, this Xbox gem tosses you in a haunted mansion.
You know, there's something very familiar about all of this. Must be nothing.
You step into the shoes of Cooper, a kid whose girlfriend has been kidnapped by the mansion's resident weirdos. Armed with whatever you can grab, chairs, pool cubes, or even yesterday's soggy newspaper, you'll punch, whack, and possibly sneeze your way through rooms filled with supernatural shenanigans. Think of it less as a complex combat game and more of a slapstick horror show where the ghouls are the ones who should be scared. The true magic of Grab by the Ghoulies lies in its cartoony art style and sense of humor that's as sharp as a vampire's fang. Even with all the eerie surroundings, the game never forgets that it's here for a good time, tossing in visual gags and cheeky jokes like it's throwing confetti at a ghost party. It's the perfect game for anyone who enjoys their spookiness served with a side of giggles.
Woo!
Didn't see you there. Let's just move on to the next one.
This Xbox remake of the raunchy N64 classic is what happens when someone looks at an M-rated game and says, you know what this needs? More bad language, a Matrix spoof, and a whole lot of toilet humor. And boy does it deliver. Just like the previous game, every level feels like you're wandering into a fever dream of a really cheeky game developer. The game's multiplayer mode is a whole other beast, where you can switch gears from running errands for a hungover king to blasting your friends into oblivion. It's like if Call of Duty had a baby with slapstick comedy, and the result is as predictable as Conker himself. Whether you're a fan of the original or just a sucker for off-the-wall humor, Conker Live and Reloaded is the game that reminds you that sometimes it's good to be bad, especially when it's in high definition.
Okay, maybe not that high definition.
Cameo Elements of Power for the Xbox 360 is like stepping into a fantasy blender filled with vibrant colors, mythical creatures, and just a dash of heroic destiny. This game takes place in the mythical realm of the Enchanted Kingdom, where the evil Troll King Thorn has kidnapped Cameo's family and unleashed chaos across the land. The story is classical fantasy fare, with Cameo embarking on a quest to rescue her family and stop Thorn. But where this game really shines is the way that it lets you switch between different elemental forms on the fly. It's like a one-person superhero team, with each form ready to tackle specific puzzles or enemies. In short, Cameo Elements of Power is a gem from the early days of the Xbox 360 era, blending adventure, strategy, and a whole lot of elemental fun. Perfect Dark Zero released as an Xbox 360 launch title in 2005, similar to Cameo. It was the much anticipated prequel to the beloved N64 classic Perfect Dark. The game takes players into the early years of Joanna Dark as a tough-as-nails, no-nonsense agent who can hack, shoot, and somersault her way out of a sticky situation. The game oozes with a stylish blend of futuristic espionage and slick action, offering both single-player and multiplayer modes that were ahead of their time. Perfect Dark Zero has a little something for everyone, even though it didn't garner the best reception back in the day. Visually, the game was a stunner for its time, showcasing what the 360 could do. The environments are detailed and varied, ranging from the neon-lit cityscapes to gritty, industrial hideouts. The multiplayer component, with its array of weapons and gadgets similar to the first game, added to the game's appeal, allowing up to 32 players to engage in chaotic, fast-paced battles. While it may not have hit the same high notes as its predecessor, Perfect Dark Zero carved out its own niche in the early days of the Xbox 360, blending stylish action with a dash of nostalgia. Viva Pinata is a delightful life simulation game. Released in 2006, it invites players to immerse themselves in the whimsical world of Pinata Island. In this enchanting game, you take on the role of a gardener, tasked with attending to a neglected garden. Your mission? Attract and tame a variety of colorful and adorable piñatas. These piñatas come in over 60 different species, each with its own unique traits and requirements. From fluttering fudge hogs to cheeky unicorns, there's no shortage of delightful creatures to discover. As you nurture your garden, you'll need to create an ideal environment for these piñatas to thrive, customizing everything from the grass at your feet to the hats on your piñatas' heads. Plant flowers, build structures, and strategically arrange your garden to attract specific species. Viva Pinata combines creativity and strategy, making it a beloved title for players of all ages. Whether you're designing a vibrant garden or celebrating the arrival of a new piñata, the game offers a delightful escape into a world where candy-filled creatures roam free.
Make-A-Wish? Absolutely, I'll do anything for the fans. I'll be right over.
You know what comes after Viva Pinata, Dylan, don't you? It's nuts and bolts. You have to play nuts and bolts, Dylan. Otherwise, I may die.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Millen. I'm pretty sure you're dying anyways.
Please, Dylan. Please. You must play nuts and bolts. Please.
Let me tell you this in a language that you'll understand. I would not play nuts and bolts if I had nails piercing my fucking eyelids. There is nothing you can do or say that would make me ever play nuts and bolts.
I'm cold. It's getting dark now. Oh, wait. I see a light. Hold me, Dylan. Please. You must hold me.
This is right about the time where Rare's luck runs out. Back in the early 2010s, when motion control gaming was all the rage, Microsoft introduced the Kinect, a sensor device that promised to revolutionize how we interacted with games. And who better to jump on the bandwagon than Rare?
Alright, we need solutions. Nintendo is kicking our ass right now with the Wii. What do you got?
How about we just don't compete with them at all and just keep doing what we're doing with Xbox Live and Halo?
That's a horrible f***ing idea. Next.
Maybe we could just buy out and acquire Nintendo?
That's f***ing ass. Chad, what do you got? Save me here.
Well, I'm glad you asked. You know how Big Brother's always watching us? Let's help them with that. Let's put a camera in front of every TV and make people exercise with it. And then after a week, they never use it again.
You know what, Chad? I want you to have my wife. And while you're at it, take my Ferrari that's parked downstairs. You've earned it.
Kinect Sports was Rare's first foray into the world of Kinect. Picture this, you're standing in a living room, flailing your arms around like a windmill, pretending to play tennis, bowling, or table tennis. It was like Wii Sports, but with more flailing and less dignity. Still, it had its moments, like accidentally smacking your friend in the face while serving a virtual tennis ball. Good times, right? Unfortunately, despite Rare's best efforts, the Kinect era eventually fizzled out. The Kinect itself, however, became a relic, gathering dust next to the forgotten Wii Fit board and some old Guitar Hero controllers.
What? A man can't dream?
Sea of Thieves is like a treasure chest of swashbuckling adventure, just waiting for you to pry it open with a cutlass. It's an open-world multiplayer game where you and your crewmates can sail the high seas, plundering treasure, battling mythical sea creatures, and occasionally getting into a drunken brawl with other pirates. The charm of Sea of Thieves lies in its freedom and unpredictability. Whether you're deciphering a cryptic map to find buried treasure, or engaging in ship-to-ship combat with other players, every voyage is a new story to tell. The game is visually stunning, with vibrant sunsets, glittering waves, and detailed pirate ships that make every seafaring journey feel like you're starring in your own pirate movie. Plus, the goofy cartoonish art style that adds a layer of lightheartedness. But beware, for the sea is not always kind. Whether you're hunting down a skeleton crew, fleeing from a kraken, or just trying to keep your ship from sinking after a particularly bad cannonball exchange, the game is filled with moments of high tension. In Sea of Thieves, every player you meet could be a friend, a foe, or a washed-up pirate with a crazy ex.
It's human fecal matter.
Maybe Amber may have had too much Taco Bell that night. I know I did. But anyway.
I want to do a deep dive into Rareware Studios because these games were my childhood. They shaped not just my taste for gaming, but also the creative side / humor of my brain. Okay, maybe not that. But Rare's games were more than just entertainment. They were an escape into worlds filled with humor, creativity, and a sense of wonder. Each game was like a new chapter in a beloved storybook, brimming with unforgettable characters, catchy tunes, and gameplay that felt like pure magic.
After playing Astrobot on the PlayStation 5 recently, I realized Rare has made some fantastic games just like Astrobot. It feels like Microsoft is afraid to use them in their full potential. And some of these games deserve remakes and sequels.
Rare didn't just make games, they crafted experiences that sparked my imagination and left a lasting impression that still brings a nostalgic smile to my face today.
That was a beautiful trip down memory lane. Now that I'm done with that, what should I do next? I mean, I could go outside, touch grass,
Play Hong Kong 97. Not this again. Yes, Milton, what do you want? Listen here, you son of a bitch. The day I play nuts and bolts is the day that I die.